Pilgrimage for Brianhaw, a spiritual journey of relevance, from the ruins of Barking Abbey to Canterbury Cathedral by Lee D. Miller. It's me. Okay, day 5, Wednesday 29th of June 2011. It was a cool but sunny morning when I awoke, and I was eager to make an early start. If the truth be known, I didn't feel entirely comfortable where I was, and sure enough, a lady walking a dog passed by as I was implementing my morning routine. She smiled at me as I said hello, but I was clearly not the sight she expected to see on her early morning stroll. I had no milk, and so I thought that I'd delay breakfast until I come across a village shop. I looked at my map and saw that a place called Detling looked of reasonable size to accommodate a village shop, and it was also just a short distance away on the path. After I'd packed, I followed the path I was on further and then took a left turn in order to rejoin the Pilgrim's Way proper. The path led to and through a part of Detling, and you come to a very busy dual carriageway, which is the A249. As I come to the edge of the road, I noticed that there were two means by which to cross it. One was by a long footbridge to my left, and the other was directly across the busy road, but with no pedestrian crossing lights or zebra crossing marks. The roadway crossing was literally just a lowered curb leading into the 4-lane highway with quite a large and grassed central reservation area in the middle. For a moment I considered crossing by the roadway as it was the shortest distance to take, but seeing the traffic was whizzing by me at such frequency, I had no hope of safely getting across, and there was no way that I was going to take the risk. I looked at the long winding bridge and thought, bugger, and then I conversely thought, thank God that's there. As I approached the footway, I saw a sign and a donation box and discovered that the bridge I was about to cross was called Jade's Crossing. As I found my way and walked across the bridge, I became quite curious as to why it was called Jade's Crossing. On the other side, I found my answer, and there was a plaque with some information written about it. I stopped to read it, and then I found that I was quite moved by what it said. Jade's Crossing. This footbridge is the result of a 20-year campaign by the people of Detling. It was constructed following the deaths of Jade Hobbs and her grandmother, Margaret Kerwitz, who were both killed crossing this road on Saturday the 16th of December 2000. This brought the number of pedestrians killed at this crossing to 4. The A249 is now a strategic dual carriageway linking two motorways. Built in 1962, it cut the village of Detling in two. No provision was then made for a proper pedestrian crossing at this focal point of the Pilgrim's Way and the North Downs Way footpath. Funds for this footbridge were raised from public subscription by Maidstone Borough Council and Kent County Council. In making a donation and using this safe crossing, you will be helping the Jade Fund maintain its work in helping to make our roads safer for all. This crossing is dedicated to those pedestrians who have died crossing the A249 here at Detling. Jade Hobbs, aged 8, 16th of December 2000. Margaret Kerwitz, aged 79, 16th of December 2000. Soraya Hutchinson, aged 74, 16th of December 1986. Fred Moll, aged 74, 23rd of December 1974. Rest in peace. How much we care for our cars and how little we care for our communities. There was a beautiful picture of Jade on the plaque, and it really brought more meaning to the story. She looked such a wonderfully happy girl in the photo. She looked like a girl with so much spirit, and I could feel it as I stood there. In the moments like that, you can only wonder how you would feel if it was your sister, your daughter, your niece, or your grandmother, your mother, or your wife. I was very touched as I contemplated that, and a little bit emotional, I have to say. Some people who seem to dislike the showing of emotion in all its most beautiful forms like to claim that people like me, who can feel their sensitivities and don't mind showing it, are sentimental, self-indulgent, and sometimes even weak in those touching moments. But that's not the case at all, at least not from what I've learnt through life. It is, in fact, at moments like that when you can allow yourself the opportunity to connect with other human beings and their stories, and to, in effect, connect with your wider consciousness through your heart. And to those who do regard that as a weakness, then I say this: you're mistaken, because the ability to connect with others through our hearts is, in fact, our greatest strength. So as I stood there, I didn't mind connecting, because it felt so natural for me to do so. And for me, it's not the showing of emotion that is wrong, it's only when you hold on to it. It is the very thing that appears to make us human after all. And if you allow it to flow through you, then it cannot cause any blockages. It's only when you hold on to the emotion that the blockages can occur. Common sense, really. And if you look at it that way, then what's the problem? At least that's how I see it. I stood there for a while because I found myself considering other aspects of the story. First of all, I thought about the lack of care that the decision makers appeared to have had for Detling and its community. How they saw fit to literally cut and divide a whole village in two without providing any adequate means by which it could be safely reconnected and made accessible again. Secondly, it made me think about the power a community has when it decides to unite in order to do the right thing and make something positive happen. I found it very inspirational. It reminded me of a story I was told when I was in a village called Cowstock in Cornwall. Cowstock is only a small place and situated by the side of the River Tamar. It's a pretty little place which has an alluring charm about it, and it boasts one of Brunel's impressive viaducts as its main focus of attention. It is a traditional Cornish village in many ways, and to this day retains a tight, close-knit community. Most of the houses in the village are still that of the original Cornish cottages and houses dating back to the 19th century when Cowstock was a wealthy mining town. The road and housing layout is much of that era and comprises of a small single-track highway through the centre of the village. As a result, there are very few areas of on-street parking available for cars outside of people's homes. Instead, the village has a main car park in which all the residents and their visitors park their vehicles in for free, and this is something that is seen in the village as a right. I was told a number of years ago the local authority attempted to introduce parking meters into the village and take away the right for local residents to park freely in their own village in order to raise revenue. The community objected, but the local authority persisted and installed the machines regardless. Not taking this line down, members of the community, with the support of the rest, poured super glue into the slots of these parking machines so they rendered them disabled. As a result, no pay and display tickets could be purchased, and so the local authority could not issue any parking tickets to further increase their revenue. The local authority didn't take this line down either, and immediately set to replacing the parking meters, as apparently they were impossible to repair, giving threats of prosecution if there was any vandalism again. The community didn't take this line down, and so superglued the shiny new machines once again. I think that this cycle may have actually occurred on a third occasion, by which time the local authority had to give up because the exercise becoming too expensive, and because the community was sticking together, they couldn't find any culprits. The Cowstock community had basically told the authority to bugger off and refused to allow it to interfere with their natural way of life. I loved that story when I heard it, and as I stood there remembering, I saw it had a parallel to the one that I had just read. It was the parallel of the power the communities possess when they stand together and challenge decisions and authority, an authority which seems to care little for their well-being and appeared not to have their best interests at heart. What was the moral of these stories, I asked myself. When people stand together for what they know to be right, they take their power back. That was the answer I came up with, pretty instantaneously. I lingered for a bit longer, taking in the photos of Jade, and then I put my donation into the slot. How much? How much? Sorry, what a bit Yorkshire then. How much? I've got that on my wallet. I've got a wallet from Yorkshire. It's got, how much? No, this was a question. Look, wait, when you go through a low emotion, you need to bring it back up again, mate. It's like Only Fools and Horses. You can get so deep, which gives you a connection. Then you've got to get out of there with a bit of humour. Yeah, that's another thing. Right, so read it as it probably should be. I lingered for a bit longer, taking in the photos of Jade, and sorry Jade. You know, nice your tears here. I lingered for a bit longer, taking in the photo of Jade, and then I put my donation in the slot. How much? That's always the question I ask myself when I make contributions like that. There's not a correct answer, is there? I suppose it relates to more to how much you've got and how much you feel is right for you at that time. For me, in that moment, a 50p piece did the trick. I wandered down to the village and then began my search to find a shop. It was approaching 9 o'clock, and so there were a number of cars milling about as people went off to work and took their children to school, etc. I couldn't see anyone walking in the main street of the village, so when I saw a car crawling along the road by the side of me and very slowly, I took the opportunity to cheekily flag it down and asked the driver where the village shop was. The driver was a lady, perhaps in her late 30s, and she didn't seem to mind stopping the car briefly to wind down her window and ask what it was I wanted. "Excuse me, I'm ever so sorry to disturb you, but do you live in this village?" I asked immediately, just to verify whether or not she had the knowledge concerning what I wished to ask, or was just driving through the village on her commute. Yes, why is that?" she answered. "Oh, brilliant. I just wondered if you could let me know. Oh, brilliant. I just wondered if you could let me know if there was a village shop here and where it was," I explained. "Oh, no problem. It's just a bit further down the road, on the left. It's not very far. You can't miss it," she said, seemingly pleased that she was able to help. "Ah, top drawer," I exclaimed. "Thanks ever so much." "No problem," she said. "That's all right." And then she headed off in her car once more. Great stuff, I thought. I could at last buy some wholesome milk so that I could finally have my breakfast. I was getting quite hungry at that point, and I was relieved to find out there actually was a shop in the village, because thus far on my pilgrimage it was becoming more and more evident that a lot of these village amenities had disappeared in Kent. I found it quite shocking, to be honest with you. Throughout all of my experiences hiking through other parts of the British Isles, I could usually always bank on there being a shop in most of the small villages that I would pass through, but here in Kent it seemed to be a rarity. I thought that much of Kent's close proximity to London probably had something to do with it. I assumed that a lot of people probably commuted to their jobs by car and to London each day and did all of their shopping at supermarkets en route to and from work, and so failed to support their local village shop or post office. That's the obvious explanation, but I'm sure there are others. I was thinking this as I was walking along Detling's High Street, and until I came upon a building which had a shop front, but had no shop in it. I looked through the window and saw that the building had some of its retail fixtures and fittings, but there was nothing else. No products, no till, and certainly no people. It felt a bit ghostly actually, and I was a bit taken aback. Surely this can't be the shop the lady told me about, could it? I wondered, and then looked further along the street, but saw nothing that gave the impression of another retail establishment. I see an elderly lady walking towards me, however, and so I thought to ask her if the shop was further along the road. As she approached, I politely asked her, and I was shocked in her reply. She goes, "No, that's the only shop in Detling, dear, but it closed down 6 months ago," she said. 6 months ago. 6 months. I couldn't believe it. Not the fact that it closed down, but the fact that the other lady who said she lived in the village had just given me directions to it and was completely oblivious to the fact that it had been closed for 6 months. It's not even a big place, Detling, and even if you don't use the village shop or even talk to other people in your own community, surely you would notice if the shop was still in existence or not, as you drove past in your car every day, wouldn't you? How disconnected from their own communities have people become? How little did people interact and talk with each other anymore? I was flabbergasted. It floored me, it really did. I don't know about 6 months, I'll tell you what, hearing that completely knocked me for six. I was stunned, mate. I was absolutely stunned. There was a bench nearby and I took the opportunity to sit down. I took my backpack off and did so. I sat there for a while, just to try and comprehend what had just taken place. What the fuck was happening to my country? I wrote that in block capitals. I shouted it in my head. All thoughts of my breakfast had gone, and I went into a period of a time that I was at a business function the year before. For a brief period, I was a community and business development manager for a family-run training company based in Barking and Dagenham. As part of my role, I attended numerous business events in order to promote the company and its ethos of doing its best to help people by developing their skills and awareness. It was a time of just before the general election, and political issues appeared to be high on most people's agendas. I was talking to a gentleman about my role, and he happened to ask me what I thought the biggest reason for the breakdown of our communities was. To be honest, I think it was a bit of a loaded question, because he knew that I was from Barking and that the British National Party had targeted the area during the general election, as they had seen it as their best opportunity to gain a seat in the House of Commons because of the high levels of immigration the constituency had experienced. Well, I took a moment to consider, and then I gave my response, of which he appeared to be extremely surprised. The biggest thing that has destroyed our communities, I said slowly, and with a reflecting tone. The motor car, I declared. He had the look of astonishment about him, and after a short pause of thought, he smiled, and I continued to explain. It's because of the motor car that people have been able to live further and further away from their places of work, and also from their families, and the areas in which they grew up. It's because of the motor car that they spend less and less quality time interacting with their families, friends and acquaintances, because they don't live close by to them anymore, and spend more and more time travelling in between places for longer and longer distances. So much so that it's come to a point where they've hardly got any time left to spend with their family and in their own communities. And even if they do, sometimes they're too tired from all the travelling to even make the effort. And that's not to mention the way the new housing estates seem to be built in a way which prioritises the motor car and its accessibility to road links and out of town shopping areas, rather than focusing on a style of housing which emphasises the creation of communities and the encouragement of the opportunities for people to interact with each other. And then there's the roads that go through and destroy existing communities, with decent housing being knocked down to make way for them. It's all nonsense. It winds me up, I ranted. I remember really going into one, and I had no idea where it all came from. Even though I'd never considered the question from that angle before, the knowledge was all there from all of my experiences in life, and it was as if, in that moment, I put it all together. But in short, the answer is the motor car, because, and its motorways, have fundamentally allowed people to live further and further away from their place of work. I finished in a moment of summary. The gentleman gave me a big smile and then laughed, while shaking my hand and patting me on the back. I think he liked the answer. When I came back from the memory and re-entered the real world, all I could do was shake my head at the ridiculous state of affairs we had allowed ourselves to get into. And here, in this community at Detling, you appear to have all of the evidence of the truth that I'd just thought about since I traversed Jade's Crossing. It all seemed to be clearly epitomised by the consequences of a motorway being built straight through the heart of the village and literally dividing it in two. What was the answer? I wondered, and straight away the answer came to me. It was exactly what I was doing, walking. If everyone worked locally and they lived within distance of their employment, i.e. so that it was reasonably close to their home, then they'd have more time to spend with their families and they'd be in their own communities. Simple really, but the world is not set up for that, for people to live like that anymore, and that's the real problem. Right, I'm gonna finish that there. I mean that practically, but that, I want to make this very, 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 very clear. That doesn't mean you're not free to travel wherever you want at any other time. Just literally just be local. shop local, work local, and then earn your money and go and travel wherever you want to go, whenever you want to do it. Okay, so I'm not part of that is just a spiritual way to be. That's the way we've always been. But it's not about restricting people's freedom. It's just a nice way to live and have more time to spend with each other in your community, and not spend your life travelling on the road, you know, in traffic, getting stressed, getting wound up, chasing your tail in time. Okay, I need to make that clear there. Yeah, that's what I meant. I think that could be misinterpreted as something else that's going on at the present time. Another plan, if you will. Not the plan I'm looking at. No thank you. No thank you to that. But yeah, let's live locally. I'll tell you what, years ago, my whole family was in Barking. I'd go any part of Barking, I had family there, we'd pop in, we'd see each other, have a cup of tea. Go around on a Friday night. Everyone's gone, everyone's all over the place. But there's no continuity, you know? It's just an example. My family's been in this town for over 200 years, that we can trace back. There's only a few of us left. And I'm not even living here anymore. Just pop back. And I love to, because I'm still connected. Alright, I think I might have, just want to explain where I'm coming from now. Right. Thank you, Brian. That's love.